but it like takes 2 seconds, so just be quiet for a sec. And we are back with Tron Evolution, ran by Goodigo. He's joined by Jamaican Bacon. So if you want to do your intro, you go ahead, and then I'm ready on time whenever you are.
My friends, this event is truly remarkable. It's time for Tron Evolution. So let's start right off the bat. Time starts in 3, 2, 1, go. So this game was released in 2010, I think, as a tie-in for the glorious movie Tron Legacy. And story-wise, it basically bridges the first Tron movie from, I forgot when it was, 1980 something, and Tron Legacy. And gameplay-wise, it's pretty similar to Prince of Persia, so you'll see lots of fighting, lots of running around, lots of wall running, climbing on things, which is very nice.
And this is New Game Plus, so he's going to be starting with all the skills in the game, because this game technically does not let you not have all the skills if you beat in the game.
Yeah, for some reason this game automatically puts you into New Game Plus, I don't know why. But it's just very nice in the run, since everything it does is just make the combat faster, which is otherwise pretty boring. You just hammer at every enemy like 4 times. And instead you just hammer at every enemy 1 time. So this is the tutorial section. We're already doing quite a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of these text boxes, you see one of them at the bottom, that pop up and stop you and explain you what to do. But by carefully avoiding the triggers and going on the sides of these platforms, we can skip those. Most of them anyway. And also, the very first skip we did there, which was jumping over a gap, also gets this text box stuck at the bottom. So we'll have that for another 30 minutes, if I don't die, that is. Just going through a bit of the parkouring tutorial here. Trying to skip as much text box and slow motion as possible. This game really likes to give you cool looking slow motions on basically everything you do. And it is in our best interest to avoid those.
Actually, if you skip the text boxes fast enough, there's kind of a weird state the game can get in, which is called Cora skip, where Cora will fall behind and not get to her objective point in time. He wasn't able to get that, but it's not a huge deal if you don't.
Yeah, it's very minor. Let me see if I can get this gap jump. There we go. Yeah, I should probably talk about our weapon as well. We have a light disc with which you can either do ranged or melee combat, but melee combat is very bad because it's not much weaker than ranged combat, or stronger, and you gotta run up to enemies, and that's bad. So we'll just mostly do ranged attacks, not just throw or just get everything. The pink suit, by the way, is on PC. You can just edit the files and change your player's color. So
yeah, the game actually has functionality to change all the colors for everything in the game, and it just doesn't. It keeps them all a static color, but you could change it. The file. So one of the reasons for New Game Plus is, like we mentioned before, you start with all discs and all upgrades, so he's going to be doing a good amount of damage no matter what he throws at them. You'll also see him, eventually he'll start to use specials, which will consume 1 meter. So like when he switches to the red disc, that's the explosive disc or whatever you want to call it, and he can do a ground slam to just take out everyone within a certain radius.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the HUD. The bar at the very top left is our health, which basically doesn't matter. We don't die. It's New Game Plus. And the little tic-tacs at the bottom, though, they're pretty important. That's the energy that we use for our special attacks, which we will use to kill most enemies, so we gotta be pretty careful with conserving that. Also here we fight Abraxas. He just teaches us some very basic combat moves. Though we don't actually have to hit him with those combat moves, you can just do them into the air and the game will be a-okay with that. like here. Yeah, for a movie tie-in game, this is actually surprisingly good. I mean, it's not better than Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs, but it's definitely up there. Also, in terms of the story, this yellow guy is Abraxas. He's a virus, and he's doing bad things. That's about it, for now at least. We fight him like way too many times in this run, like 4 times. He just doesn't die. Also, his audio leveling is very bad, so most of the time when he speaks you can't hear it. And that's the tutorial done. Only 5 minutes in a speedrun. Lovely. So these are the upgrade stations where you can use your XP to level up, but we're already on max level and have everything upgraded that we need, so no need for those.
They can be used to refill your energy bar if needed, but when you are using the corruption disc, which is the little yellow icon, because of an upgrade, you actually regenerate energy over time.
Oh yeah. I hit this button from far away, so I don't have to jump over there with this well-aimed special. Also, we should probably talk about the discs. So, disc number 1 is the heavy disc, which is the blue one. And that one is mainly used for its long range. It can hit like over the whole map, basically. The red one is the explosive disc, which is used most of the time probably, because it can easily kill like large groups of enemies. The third one is the stasis disc, which will have like basically 0 use except for a few enemies later in the game that actually need that to die. And the fourth one is the corruption disc, the yellow one up here. And that one is equipped most of the time since it regenerates the energy very slowly, but it does build up over time.
You'll notice he was doing kind of a jump in that room. There's certain fights where they want you to kill specific enemies, but it doesn't actually force you to kill them to move on, so he was able to do a jump off of a specific object to get up top.
Yeah. Most of the fights in this game, the game doesn't force you to do them and you can just run past. Also, we should probably talk about button glitch. So, buttons in this game have like a 2 or 3 second animation that plays when you activate them, but if you manage to do any other animation while activating the button, that just gets cancelled. So, what you saw there was I did a grapple. If there's enemies, you can like grappling hook towards them basically. And that's able to skip the button animation. Something I'll do later is also jump on the button and then let the landing animation interrupt the button if there's no enemies nearby. Also, let's talk about jump punching. So, jump punching is the fastest form of movement, as far as we know. You basically just jump and punch all the time. And if you jump, you have barely any control over your character. So sometimes when I jump over gaps, I will use my punch as well in order to like kind of gain control again and maybe correct myself off to the side or something. Also, here comes one of the few out of bounds, which is bunch of stuff skip. We just run up that wall. That room doesn't have a ceiling, so we can just pop right through there. For some reason that deloads the room, including the floor, so all the enemies fall down into the void and die. And then we reload the room so we can land in there.
Yeah, the game has certain load points whenever you're in a room. They try to dynamically load things to prevent as many loading screens as possible, and that can kind of be abused in particular ways. That's really like one of the few that we do in the run, but there are a few points in the games where it's really weird when it's trying to load rooms. It can also turn into a negative where certain points, if you die, then you just can't move on and the game soft blocks. Hopefully we don't see any of those, but yeah. Worth mentioning, I guess.
There is indeed some Daft Punk in this game in like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, which is the only soundtrack that actually stands out in this game. The rest is just kind of noise.
This was actually done by Daft Punk, though. It's just you can't really tell it's Daft Punk until certain songs.
Yeah. Also, that room we just kind of do some well-planned jumps on some walls that lets us completely skip that room. There's a lot of tutorial text boxes in that, and we don't want those. So yeah, these orange things are grapple points that you can grapple towards too. And they will have some use later. Here we skip this room by kind of going on the corner. Also, due to the out of bounds earlier, we have another text box stuck down there. Unfortunately, I died, so the first one is already gone. But now we have this one, so let's hope that one doesn't go away. Here the game just keeps introducing some new enemy types to us that will mostly just need specific discs to damage. But luckily I know all the enemies by heart, so we can just switch discs accordingly. There's some optimized movement, skipping every bit that we can.
Yeah, a lot of the optimization in this game just comes from knowing when to, you know, do like a jump punch, or there's even certain points where it's better to roll. It really is just a matter of figuring all that out and chaining it together.
Yeah. Also, it's time for Daft Punk now. It's a little quiet, but it should be good. The light cycle is louder than Daft Punk, to be honest, but nothing we can do about it. So yeah, these light cycle sections are pretty basic. They're a little tough to do on keyboard and mouse. I'm actually doing these one-handed because turning the camera just really messes you up. So we just want to move around.
There are also certain points that are really easy to die. Like if you run into a wall, you'll lose all your speed and just die, and you cannot gain that speed back because the speed ups are scripted.
Yeah, the speed ups seem to be somewhat random. Like sometimes you die and you just can't gain enough speed to clear an upcoming gap when you respawn like 3 times in a row or something. It's pretty brutal. Yeah. And sometimes the light cycle also just likes to mess you over. Nothing you can really do about it. They're a little broken. Let me just try to go for this skip that I learned 5 minutes ago. There we go. Get on that lamp, please. This is not turning out good. Okay, let's just not do that. There's too many enemies now. We'll take the other way around. I'd gladly give up those 2 seconds. So yeah, and here in this room there's a bridge that's supposed to go away, and you need to hit some buttons to reactivate it, but by doing some jumping and avoiding the triggers, we can do the infamous Jeff Bridges skip. Just jump on this, and then we're good. Usually this bridge disappears if I don't fall down.
Yeah, this bridge skip has actually had like 4 different versions of it, and we've finally stumbled upon the fastest one that involves never having to respawn the bridge at all.
Yeah, as you saw there, as long as I hold shift, which is like the key for everything, you just start to wall run on every wall that you slightly touch, which is rather annoying. That's the big challenge of this game, having the camera not mess you up, because it really likes to do that, and also not just wall running on everything. Yeah, this game also has tanks. And they're very fun. They also used to be very loud, but I managed to spare you that. Tanks are a very hard boss, especially in New Game Plus. One hit and there they go. And now here comes another instance of the button glitch, but this time there's no enemies, so I'll do it by interrupting my button animation with the landing animation. If I can do that. There we go. Just kind of slide onto the button. I don't need to do it here. So I can just jump down before the tank appears. Time for tank, which is also in a glorious pink. Tank is pretty basic. It's kinda stupid to control, because as long as you hold W, it just goes in the right direction that you're looking, and also not immediately, but the tank has to like turn slowly before it can actually roll.
Also, a fun fact is the tank moves its fastest when you're on the heavy disc for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. Just decides to give you random different movement speeds for different discs. Yeah, since we're in New Game Plus, all these tanks and ships blowing us up aren't really a threat. We'll just kill the tanks because we have nothing better to do, basically.
There's also a cutscene skip up here that he'll do, where if you just jump off the bridge to the left before it explodes, then you skip the cutscene.
Yeah, usually you're supposed to fall down the bridge, but you can just roll down yourself before that happens. Also, since it's fastest to always like look straight to your destination and just move forwards, you'd see me maybe doing some hot flicks on these tanks in order to look straight for the maximum amount of time. That's it for this tank section, luckily. Yeah, most of the combat is just planning out which enemies are gonna hit with which disc. We have to wait for this laser cycle, unfortunately. This top laser we don't really care about, it doesn't hit us a lot. And once again, jump punching is the fastest, so instead of doing wall runs or vaults, most of the time we want to just jump punch over the gap if it's possible. So this room used to be pretty bad. There's a bunch of buttons you have to activate in like quick succession. But luckily this laser also doesn't really exist. So we can just jump up there, do a special, and we're right in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of animation canceling that can kind of just exploit really anything in the game.
Yeah, here comes a pretty tough boss, casually actually. Or mini-boss, but we can just kill him in 2 hits. Which is already better than most enemies that die in 1 hit. Also time for the best quote in the game. Wow, you are good. Come on! Can I get some wow, you are good in the chat? Also, Olivia Wilde actually voices Cora in this game, since she also plays her in the movie. So now
So now he's on to Argia, which is kind of like the New York of the game. And we usually split it up into 2 sections, which is entering the city, which he's doing now, and leaving the city later. There's really just a lot of parkour going in. There's going to be a few forced fights. Thankfully, we're able to skip one of them now, and then there will be a lot that he's able to skip later.
Yeah. Aja is interesting because when the city basically goes upwards, so when we go into Aja here, we're mostly going to go upwards, but we don't have a lot of ways to skip anything when we have to go up. We can't fall down, however, so getting out of the city again will have a few more skips and be a bit more broken than the beginning here. Most of this is just basic parkour right now. Also, this is weird. Some of these cutscenes are pre-rendered, so they have me in the default color, which is supposed to be blue. That was white there for some reason. That's odd. I think I know why, actually. I played another chapter before this where your color gets automatically set to white. That might be why. I don't know. Yeah, bit of a tiny skip here. Also, luckily we didn't die, so we still have the glorious text box down there that reminds us how to parry. Thanks, game. Okay, now instead of fighting yellow guys, we mostly fight orange guys, who are basically the minions of Clue. Basically everyone's after us at this point, because we're doing the bad things. I'm supposed to land on an invisible edge there, so this is the dumb fight skip. This glass has a bit of an invisible ledge next to it, as well as this wall, which lets us skip a forced fight in that room. That's not the way I meant to wall run. Third time's the charm. Let's go.
Yeah, there's two invisible walls that collide with each other, and so you can walk on the first one and then jump around and land on the second half of that wall, and that's what you'll have seen him do, and you can just move on.
Also, since you found that skip, can I get confirmation of whether it's called dumb fight skip because the skip is dumb or because the fight is dumb?
It's dumb fight skip because the fight is dumb.
Alright, nice.
It's just it's a very, like, easy fight, no matter what level you're at.
I forgot which fight it is, actually. I haven't done it in forever. So yeah, in this fight, New Game Plus really shines, so we'll just kill the first few enemies that are here. Then the game will throw some more enemies at us with a timer, so we'll just have to wait for those to spawn. These lasers are pretty bad. They seem to be on random cycles, based on how fast you were before, maybe. So I just like to go forward and hope they don't kill me, which we're looking pretty good so far. My dad always used to say if you make the first set of lasers, you'll make the other ones too. And he was right. So this fight is pretty annoying, because if you kill those enemies there in the middle too fast, I think the fight will soft lock, and even though all the enemies are dead, the exit door just won't open. So we waited enough, now we can kill them. Let's hope we manage to not soft lock the fight here. There's another enemy. These white things, by the way, that we jump over, they reflare energy, so they're pretty crucial in large fights. Here, once again, we see the beauties of New Game Plus, where it'll throw an initial bunch of enemies at us and then just spawn other enemies on a timer. Pretty lengthy timer, actually.
Yeah, there's actually so much time to do literally nothing here.
Yeah, we just do some nice acrobatics, strengthen our muscles, stretch our body a bit. As soon as their hitbox appears, we just throw one area attack and they're all dead. Here comes number 2. These guys didn't die. Come on. There we go. We have one of these grenade-looking guys again, but once again, stun him and kill him. And he's a gonzo. Now here the game tries to force some story onto us. So this girl really wants to talk to us, but luckily we can just turn around and walk away. XP doesn't matter since we're already on the maximum level. The game just keeps throwing it at us. And yeah, we have everything we need. No need to level up anything.
Yeah, when you make a new game, the game doesn't reset your experience at all, which is why we just decided on New Game Plus, even though it's not an actual like mode in the game.
Well, it is kind of the default mode in the game, so you had to go through some extra trouble to actually get a new game and reset your level and everything. Also, yeah, what I did just there is I didn't enter the fight straight, but rather like jumped around the right and over the wall. And for some reason, if you do that, the enemy's AI never activates, so they just stand there in a nice little group doing nothing, so one bomb disc kills them all.
And now we're actually on the second half of the city, so he's trying to escape the city to go find Gibson.
Yeah. So this is theater skip or broken floor skip. Usually you're supposed to activate some buttons here and then the floor breaks and you have to get back up. But if we do some nice jumping around there, we can hit this trigger. The floor looks like it broke, but it's actually still there. Well, at least the texture is there. If we jump down, we still die. This is the one enemy, I think, that we preemptively have to hit, otherwise he hits us. So let's go for the first strike there.
Yeah, there's a specific enemy, I think they're called scouts. They're really the only enemy that is like truly a danger throughout the run, but you'll see them in a few spots where a lot of times if we kill them, it's just because it's worse if you get knocked down.
Yeah, they have like a really long range attack that can hit you from anywhere. And it hits every time they throw it, basically, and it'll stun you for like a second, which is very obnoxious. So this is one of the first out of bounds found, actually, pretty similar to the one earlier. We use an invisible ledge there, and now we do the Mario and keep running up these walls until we're high enough. So let's hope we can make it. Nice. We land on the ceiling of this, or on the roof of this room. Then we jump down again. There's a fight in there with like a few lasers or something, I don't know. And that skipped that way.
Yeah, the invisible ledge that's just there is really just a fragment I guess the level designers never found. There's just like a giant box drawn and the ledge kind of sticks out of the building.
Yeah, there's a few of those in this area. That's not what I'm supposed to do, by the way. Let me do this again. So following right up on that, we have another out of bounds, which skips also a pretty huge portion. We just jump on that wall. For some reason, the devs gave like all these things that are outside of the map still collision, so we can use that to our advantage. Do a really deep jump here onto this road to just barely make it. And over there is a tank section that we will now activate. Unfortunately, we can't quite get in there. So we have to run up here and hit the trigger.
So with the scripting of the game, this tank skip was actually one of them, where if you get into the tank without triggering the actual fight, it won't be able to move on, which is why we specifically have to jump into the loading zone for the fight.
Yeah. Sometimes if you skip too much, the game just doesn't work anymore, it doesn't load the things that it needs to, so in some places we would have larger skips, but they don't quite work. That was bad. So in this arena, there's ships coming from all 4 directions, and this is where the exit is, so I like to position myself here, but apparently there was a ship spawning in this direction and I didn't see it, so it flew down and actually landed on me, which flipped me and killed me as well. The tank physics are pretty good.
Yeah, in the early days I never knew about that ship spawning, and I lost a record to it because the ship landed on me and I died, and I never knew it was a thing.
So would you like light cycles? This one is a little longer than the first one and also a little harder actually. There's lots of cars and walls here with just very poor hitboxes. And also, as you might know in Tron, these trails of the light cycles are solid. That's the way the game works. But for some reason your own trail is also solid to yourself, so sometimes if you just like land on something at a weird angle, the game will think that you hit the trail that's actually behind you and will just completely like turn you 90 degrees and kill all your speed, which is very fun. Let me take a sip of water while playing this one-handed. Delicious.
There are actually certain skips in this light cycle part that you wouldn't even notice because the game like expects you to drive all the way up bridges and stuff like that, and you can just kind of steer off them.
Yeah, there's a lot of alternate routes in this part, but we just choose the fastest one for everything. I mean, yeah, your own trail being solid makes sense from a story standpoint, but there's no reason to have that in the game. There's like no place where you can hit your own trail, I think. Except for if you for some reason decide to go backwards.
The game actually does have multiplayer light cycles that still is online if you want to ever play it.
Yeah, but keep in mind this game runs on games for Windows Live, so it's tricky getting the game to work, and I myself haven't gotten multiplayer to work yet. So I think I have an offline account or something, I don't know. It's just a mess. Yeah, once again, pre-rendered cutscenes where we're suddenly white and back to pink again. So I'll slow down there a bit to hit a trigger to spawn these enemies. Otherwise they might not spawn if I just keep jumping. So kill all of these. And as soon as they do, when this cutscene plays, we'll hit a button through the cutscene, which skips the original one. We have to just hit 4 buttons here. Each of them has their little cutscene. Yeah, once again, a lot of these enemies we don't have to kill, so we can just run past these. The only issue is they can hit me in midair, which will just drop me down, and that's pretty dangerous. But that didn't happen, so we're good. Hit a button off screen. And now we're about to enter the game grid, which is a 3-minute autoscroller. basically just a bunch of fights back to back at each other, but since we're New Game Plus, most of them last around half a second. I missed that, but that's fine, because we hit the checkpoint. He's gonna tear me a new port, and also call me a little glitch, which is very mean. He has a bunch of lines you can say there, but that's the best one, to be honest. So we get to listen to Clue a bit. He just talks, says 1 second of fight, and then he talks some more. So there's an enemy, and he's dead. So we get to do some more acrobatics. If you want to take a quick break, take a drink or whatever, now's the time. You have 2 minutes, go. I have opposed their presence. They possess no directives, no purpose. And another quick fight.
Yeah, I've experimented with this fight many times, and sadly it just looks like there's absolutely no way to skip it.
Yeah, sadly this part is just way too scripted. So yeah, this is a major plot point where Clue just persuades everyone that the ISOs are bad. Yeah, here's 3 groups of 2. For some reason, this one group always takes 2 hits, while all the others take 1. It's pretty weird. There they go. They just barely survive 1 hit. But yeah, since people are talking about in chat, this is Hackathon raising money to send some runners to ESA. But we already met that goal, which is just $500, so every donation over $500 will go to save the children. So be sure to get those donos in. Isn't? Oh, there's the enemy. Why is he here? That's weird. So now the game grid is finally over, and we're entering into the jungle of the green area, the kernel. With some very interesting movement here. This camera angle is really weird, so you can't just go straight forwards, you can't just like hold W and A, you have to kind of alternate to keep your line. Yeah, this area is just, as most of the game is, a lot of parkouring and fights. Sadly, a lot of the time this game tries to force fights on you here, it actually works and we can't skip a lot of it. So we hit that button from far away with a well-aimed special attack, which actually kind of skips the trigger for this room to load, so it has no floor. So what we're going to do is jump in, hit the checkpoint and restart, so we can actually have a floor here.
Yeah, despite having to reload for that room, it is faster to just hit that button anyways, because it skips having to get around to hit the button directly.
Yeah, unfortunately restarting there got rid of a lovely text box at the bottom, which I think we still had, but luckily we get the next one right here, off the bat. So another game will remind us that we need to use the stasis disc on the advanced infected in order to damage them. And here comes one of the worst fights. Up there is Gibson. He doesn't want to help us. He could just jump down, but he's like, nah, I can't help you from here.
Sorry, I can't help you here. Where is he?
Makes sense.
Where's Flynn?
Yeah. This just spawns a bunch of enemy waves at us that really like to hide behind everything. This room layout is kind of bad, so let's hope we can quickly find all the enemies.
There is actually a theoretical skip for this fight, but it's not possible at the moment. If you were to ever put yourself through doing a low gravity run, you can actually skip this fight. But there's no way to do it normally.
Also, this is the first time we fight the green guys. You might see that enemy there, he's a little more greenish than the others. Those are the advanced infected. Those need a special disc to be killed, which is the stasis disc, as the text box so nicely tells us. Which is pretty annoying. And you gotta use like a special disc for just a single enemy. Where are the enemies that are? I hear another one, there he is. Just blow this wall up and continue on our merry way. Yeah, we have a way to get up here without finishing that fight down there, but unfortunately these enemies aren't spawned and we need to kill them for the door here to open.
Yeah, blowing up that wall actually triggers the enemies spawning, which then, by effect, triggers the door opening.
Here the game tries to throw some timing puzzles at us, but most of them are either very easy or the timing, it just actually doesn't matter. The cycle works out perfectly over there, with those platforms appearing right as we arrive. And here they introduce a room that is going to be used a few times in this area, which is kind of room that has like two sides and there's lengthy fights featured on both sides. If I can kill that guy. That guy too, maybe. There we go. I never counted the enemies in here, so I might miss when the fight is over. But there we go. So that was the first half of the fight, and then we just run over there onto the second half. Which is very bad because there's a lot of enemies spawning up there, which is a pretty bad spot. And also this is the only energy refill station, so we might run into some energy problems. An energy crisis, you might say. We good? Yeah, we're good. That was a pretty solid fight, actually. We did not run into an energy crisis. But yeah, this area is kind of bad to parkour through because as everything is like really blocky here and really rocky, cave-like, the hitboxes also reflect that in a few places, so it's pretty easy to just get stuck on some rocks sticking out of the wall. This fight, the game for some reason just forgets to force us to do, so we can just run over and do the second half now. There's an enemy hiding in there, I see you. Probably went too early there. Oh no, we didn't die. There's corruption on that wall which is supposed to throw you down, but sometimes it just doesn't. I almost fell down there, but we're good. So to here. Here's a button puzzle where you're supposed to activate all these wall buttons in a specific order. And sometimes every button here plays a cutscene after it with a delay, and sometimes you can just skip cutscenes. We're not sure why, it just sometimes happens. So let's see, that's button number 1, button number 2. Let's count the cutscenes. 1 cutscene. 2 cutscenes, so no skips so far. Maybe we can get one at the end here. Enemies here don't really matter, they automatically die anyway when you activate the buttons, like there. They just
also,
dissolve.
The buttons, hitboxes are like mega huge, so you can just run at the bottom of it and it will just activate it from there.
I actually just accidentally did that, kinda. Kill those enemies from far away, hopefully, if my disc wants to hit. There we go. Accidentally had a bit of a slow motion there. Which is slow as the name implies. So yeah, that was some spicy combat, and now we go into a pretty good chase sequence. Also, we meet our best friend again, which is the yellow guy, Abraxas, and his trusty cape.
He's grown too powerful. Run!
We're actually going quite fast in this chase sequence, so if you take a close look at Abraxas, you can see that he keeps like snapping to a certain distance to us. There's like something falling in front of him and he will just clearly teleport forwards because we're so fast. Also, our green friend Gibson here actually kind of gets in our way since we're so fast. Just jump punch through everything. Nice stomach you got there, Gibson. And then we blow up the corner right here, which is very nice because it's the worst area in the game.
Colonel's coming down.
More buttons, yeehaw. Well, we could button glitch these, but it doesn't really do a lot for us. So we just don't. Okay, I actually did this at the very beginning of the run, but forgot to explain it. If you do a special attack like that, it'll give you a tiny bit of height. So in some places you can skip grabbing a ledge like that, which is a tiny bit faster. Also unskippable cutscenes, yeehaw. Let's hope this fight goes well. If it goes perfect, one of the guys should fall down into the pit by himself, so let's try that. Apparently he doesn't want to. I'm meant to hit that guy. Okay, he didn't fall down, and I'm out of energy, so let me grab some more. That was slow. And who would have thought? It's another light cycle. This one actually, if you equip the corruption disc, the trail gets all messed up. Not sure what's up with that. Oh, that was interesting.
This cycle is also the fastest cycle.
Oh yeah. In every light cycle sections you play on like different light cycles. But this one belongs to Flim, the creator, so it's obviously the fastest and also the most slick looking. Okay, once again, since all of the walls and obstacles here are pretty rocky and uneven, it's pretty easy to get stuck on things here too, so we want to avoid the walls as much as possible. Also, spoiler, our friend Gibson here gets infected by Abraxas, so now he's evil, and he really likes to spread the pain. There he goes. So yeah, here we just have to wait for him to become vulnerable until we can hit him once, and then wait another like 20 seconds so that we can hit him again.
Mother, this is unpleasant.
Yeah, right now there's not much to do, but in a second here we want to lure him to a specific spot, which is... where is it? There, okay. Because after the next hit he's gonna run into this wall thing. So if we hit him up here and he's already up there, he doesn't need to run that far. So we'll just set this up while we wait for him to become vulnerable again. There we go.
I can't hold it back much longer. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
I think the game is only on PC and 360. Might also be on PlayStation, I don't know.
It was also on PlayStation 3, and there was a Wii version, but the Wii version is a different game.
Oh yeah. I think there's also a DS version, which is a different game. Yeah, so in this part of the fight, Gibson will just run into all these wall things, and then spawn a bunch of enemies that we have to kill before we can progress. Did we miss an enemy? No, we didn't, okay.
Oh man, that one.
Here we spawned some annoying green guys. That guy survived for some reason. I don't know how he did that. He doesn't want to die. He's... what is up with that guy? Is he invincible? Can I get up, please? No, I want energy. Come on. There we go, that took long enough. Let's try to kill these guys now. Yay, he's not invincible anymore. Lovely.
Yeah, the PC version of Tron Evolution is a direct port of the Xbox 360 version because all of the commands are referencing an Xbox controller.
I did that very poorly. I just finished all those enemies and now I have 0 energy left, so let's just try to punch him and hope that... okay, that's slow. Let me grab some energy. There we go. That's not the move I meant to do. And now he's dead. And he very dramatically dissolves. And we go right into the void for like a second until the cave around us actually loads in.
There's also a chance of the game soft locking after the Gibson cutscene, so that's some good luck right there.
Okay, sometimes the game decides you to just not give you the vaults, so that's fun. In this cave, basically everything can break, all of the vaults, all of the wall runs, it's pretty terrible. I meant to go over that, there we go. So yeah, this room has a lot of these scouts. I just call them katana guys because they have a weird sword thing on their back. And as said earlier, they really like to snipe you, so let's see how many snipes we get in this room. That's 1. That's 2. 2 in a row actually, let's make that 3. That's 4. 4 snipes, that's pretty terrible. Where am I? Here I am. Yeah, and here we'll just hit these enemies from off screen, which is a little faster. Just in the middle of our jump, throw a disc there. I died, that's fine. It might actually be faster, I haven't tested it yet, because if you die there, usually there's a cutscene where you get into the light cycle, but if you die there, your light cycle already drives off, but the cutscene like of showing the light cycle still plays, so you don't have a camera for a few seconds. I haven't tested if it's faster yet, so I don't think it is though.
I think it's about the same.
I'll just say it's faster and say that was intentional. And more light cycles. I think this is the second last one, yeah. There's a little short one at the end.
Also, the health bar is just a timer. So it will always just count down the same amount.
Yeah, I think there's certain triggers for the Aja City health bar up there to just go down to make it very close at the end, no matter how fast you go. There we go, by the way. This is what I talked about a while ago. Your own trail is solid. So sometimes that just happens. I'm surprised it only happened now. Oh, almost drove off there. Oops. And I have my set route for all these light cycles to avoid all the obstacles as easy as possible. And in case you didn't have enough vehicle action, we have another tank section coming right up. We can actually do some very sick flicks. This time we
So
actually
in
oh yeah, go ahead.
in the story-wise, we're back to Argia, and the city's like now being destroyed completely by, well, what you'll find out is Abraxas.
Yeah, he's still alive after we fought him twice. It won't be the last time. Unfortunately, there's no real way to speed up these tank sections. We're just gonna drive through and shoot everything in sight because we have nothing better to do with our mouse. This room has 4 buttons on each side of this little pillar, so let's hit one of them early. If we can. I hope I hit that. No, I didn't. Okay. Now, killing too many tanks here is actually very slow, because then they'll actually call them back up, the cutscene will play and some more tanks come in. So we just kill one and make sure to not kill any other. Some more hot flicks here on these ships. This guy dies without us really doing anything, which is very nice of him. Enough tank. I think that's the last tank of the game, so we don't need to hear that revving engine sound again. Yeah, this fight is a little odd because it features basically two types of enemies, one of which requires a bomb disc to kill, and one of which requires a heavy disc to kill. So we have to decide on which we kill first, and the other group will attack us, which is pretty bad. Wow, one guy survived. There we go. And here comes another Abraxas fight. Here at the beginning, if we just get very close to him, he will charge up an epic ground slam. And he's very vulnerable after that, so we can just get close to him, hit him with a ground slam. And he immediately dies in one hit, at least as first phase.
And also a thing worth mentioning is with the heavy disc ground slam, it has 3 chances to hit because it's fully upgraded. So it will damage him multiple times during that phase.
Oh yeah, it kind of sends out like 3 blasts, and if you're really close to him, all of those just hit. In this phase there's rocks falling from the ceiling, so we just have to lure him under the sparkling spots. I hope he's close.
Also, Abraxas is able to take damage the entire fight as well, so even if the boulders do not finish him, you can kind of just pinch at his health a little bit to finish him off.
Yeah, they have had full energy, so I can actually kill him with just one boulder and just slam all my specials into him and he's dead.
It's way faster than waiting for another wave of boulders to fall.
Yeah, and the boulders are also RNG, so you don't know where they're going before, so you have to kind of see where they are and lure him to there, which is very slow. Also, this is the fun chapter of the game where the creator blesses us or purifies us or something, so we go white. So unfortunately, no pink for the rest of the run. So this is a fun skip called Ship Skip Skip Skip. We do a special to land on this little ledge, hopefully. There we go. And wall run up. And that skips a huge fight here and some more parkour.
The reason it's Ship Skip Skip Skip. The reason it's Ship Skip 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 is because there were 2 skips before that that were slower, and so that's like the fastest version now.
Oof. Yeah, we just kept finding skips that were faster and faster. Yeah, now we go onto the mothership here. If I can hit those enemies. I'm out of energy. Why don't we fix that? Yeah, if your favorite color is orange, you will really like this area.
So coming up is Grapple Swag Skip. If you grapple towards an enemy and you're like kind of in the air, you can sort of maintain that by grappling between multiple enemies.
Yeah, so by keeping our grapple up, we basically just fly over those enemies, and as soon as we're close enough to this platform, we'll just punch over and skip that fight. Now, the game will actually still think we're kinda in that earlier fight, so if we progress this fight, it'll play the cutscenes from the fight that we skipped. So in these cutscenes, you'll just see the game keep spawning enemies into the earlier fight. Oh, I got sniped again. Right, once again, we try to do some button glitches. We have to hit these two. I missed that one. There we go. Once again, just interrupting the button activation animation with a landing animation from jumping on it. I messed it up there too, but that's alright. Yeah, and this area is kind of a huge mess of like conveyor belts that carry bombs or something. So we can just move along these. You have to be careful though, since there's these bombs moving around on them. If they hit us, it's pretty bad. They do a lot of damage, and they also like to push us around, so we might fall off. So I'll try to jump over those if possible. Once again, as long as the fights aren't forced, we have no need to fight the enemies. Killing this upcoming guy is a sign of good luck though. Everyone will be blessed if this guy dies. Sometimes he runs close to us. There he goes, he's dead. Hell yeah.
And coming up is End of the Line Skip. That's just the name of the chapter. And the way these conveyor belts are built in the map, there's not really a lot of invisible walls. So you can really just run against a wall and get on the other side. And even if you're out of bounds, the floor is still solid.
Yeah, I mean, they try to make some of these little things... They have invisible walls around some of them that you can't go out of bounds here, but they just forgot that that one has a wall next to them, so we can just use that.
And that will let you go out of bounds and skip a lot of different fights that would take place in kind of the basement area of the map.
Yeah, and since we're out of bounds, they didn't bother to make that wall there solid, so we can just jump down straight into the trigger for this light cycle. And we are coming up on the final fight after this one, actually. Which is against Abraxas. Who would have thought, for a fourth time. That was close. That was also close. I don't know how I didn't hit that pillar, but I'm grateful. So yeah, first of all, this fight will throw some regular enemies at it. As long as I remember which discs to use, these are pretty easy.
And to catch you up on the story, basically Clue and Abraxas are in cahoots, and he tried to hire him as a virus to spread so he could then, like, I guess kind of keep it under control.
Yeah, he basically gets this virus and then blames it on the ISOs so he can kill all of them. Which is a nice setup for Tron Legacy, which is a good movie. Kinda. This fight is not going very good. These enemies don't want to die. There we go. There's a survivor somewhere. I don't see any. Let's go on the hunt. There he is. Oh. There's another one. There he is. So yeah, this fight basically consists of Abraxas will activate these 4 generators or whatever, or draw energy from them, and we will blow them up, and that's the fight. Now, between all these different generators, he will very slowly walk between them. So what we'll do, we will hit these buttons, button glitch them of course, and then after this one we're gonna hopefully button glitch this, yeah nice, and go onto the ledge here. And now after this checkpoint is hit, we will jump down into the void, which will actually reset Abraxas' position. So as you can see here, he was kind of in the middle of the map, and walking to one of the corners takes him quite a while, but by doing that his position is reset to over there, so he immediately activates this generator and doesn't have to walk for like 10 seconds. And we'll do that a second time here. Unfortunately it doesn't save time for all the other generators. If we do it there, it will actually spawn further away from them. Yeah, as you can see, he walks very slowly.
Yeah, sadly you can't skip all of them because it will actually soft lock the fight and he'll never move on.
Yeah, the first time we worked on this skip, we thought we could skip all of them, and I tried it in my runs, and I lost 2 world record runs to it actually not working and being a soft lock instead. Because we didn't bother to check if you can actually finish the game if you do that, which you can't. Yeah, let's see which path he will take. Looks like he's taking the fast path, yeah. He can either go around here or jump on the middle and then jump down again, which is pretty slow. Go faster. No, I'm supposed to activate that. Okay, guess I made it somehow. Sometimes the buttons don't actually activate like it did there, so let's go for that again. I think it happens when, like, in the middle of activation you get hit by enemies. I'm not looking at the button.
So we're reaching the final core. Abraxas is gonna try to take all the power from the main one, which is not good. And we'll be coming up on time.
Oh yeah. We'll just run to this middle section. There will be some screaming and then we have to blow this one up with a bit of delay. Also for this he actually runs and doesn't very slowly walk, which is appreciated. And looks like he will overload the drive. Yeah, this thing will establish a link to all these 4 generators, and after the last one is done we have to wait a few seconds, and then we can hit it. This enemy is very close. Unfortunately, if these guys blow up and their smoke hits me, and that's time by the way, if their smoke hits me, I'm unable to use any discs for a few seconds, so that's pretty bad. Yeah, that's Tron Evolution. We save Olivia Wilde, save the day, also we die. And the fun thing is, the only mention of like this game or anything happening in the game basically in the movie Tron Legacy is that Cora says like once that some guy saved her. Which is what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk in chat about finding the game interesting, so if you find yourself playing the game and want to potentially learn the run, make sure to just go to speedrun.com/Tron, and we have a bunch of guides on there, and we have a Discord server if you want to learn the game yourself.
Oh yeah, sure. It's a pretty interesting game, easy to pick up and hard to master.
So that was a 1:12:32. You got
That's
there?
pretty solid. That's like second place on the
Seemed like
leaderboards.
a pretty good run. Right.